go on the record. This is the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport Board meeting. The time is 3:30, and I will call the meeting to order and note that we have a quorum present for today's meeting. The second item on the agenda is discussion of possible action to approve the minutes of the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport Board meeting held on September 12, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing no additions or corrections to the minutes, is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the meetings of the board meetings September 12th.
There's been a motion made by Member Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded by Dr. Golightly. A motion has been made and seconded and laid upon the table. Is there any further discussion on item 2? Hearing none, all those in favor? No recording.
I believe Scott joined and it looks
maybe
it's Michael's.
Okay, all right. The motion, having received a majority of those appointed to and constituting the board, passes. The third item on the agenda is discussion and consideration of possible action to approve the monthly financials. The monthly financials were submitted in your packet. There's also physical copies here. Are there any questions by staff about the financials? Hearing no discussion, is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the financials.
Member Wallace has made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Councilman Williams has seconded. Motion having been made and seconded, laid upon the table. Is there any further discussion on the financials? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Discussion, consideration, and possible action to amend the hangar lease agreement for hangar site 13. Mr. Young.
Yes, Mr. Chair. In 2002, Mr. Brady constructed a hangar on what is now known as site number 13. This ground lease was a 30-year lease with 2 5-year options. And in 2015, Mr. Brady added onto his hangar to build additional apron and connect to the taxi lane behind his hangar. This original square footage of the space was said to be 3,545 square feet pursuant to the ground lease amendment in 2015. However, Mr. Brady notified airport staff that the square footage of his ground lease was inaccurate. Staff went out and took measurements and compared those measurements. 2 measurements taken by Mr. Braden and the previous airport manager. We derived that the correct square footage was actually 3,225 square feet. So this amendment would be amending that language, which would amend the ground lease rate that Mr. Gail Braden would pay starting on January 1st of this following year. This will not affect any CPI adjustments.
I appreciate you taking care of this. This is one of the first things when I went on the board that he asked me about, since his hangar is next to mine, that he came up and asked about. So I appreciate you taking the time to do that. Is there any questions about the amendment to the ground lease to reflect the accurate square footage of the leased property? None. Is there a motion to move to approve the amendment to hangar lease agreement with hangar site 13? Councilman Williams makes a motion. Is there a second? Okay. Motion being made and seconded and laid upon the table. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Having received the majority of those elected to and appointed to and constituting board, the motion carries. Item number 5 is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding non-aeronautical use of airport hangars. This has been one of my pet peeves for a while, and it's also a concern to the FAA. So, Mr. Young.
Yeah, so at the last airport board meeting on September 12th, the board discussed concerns about airport users storing items other than airworthy aircraft in their hangars. At the Oklahoma Airport Operators Association meeting I attended later that month, I spoke with other airports on how they handle these kind of issues. Many quoted their minimum standards and others relied on the FAA's hangar use policy, which we discussed last month. What was evident is that the non-aeronautical use of hangars occurs at, we're not the only airport, occurs at every airport, very common. However, since we do accept federal grant monies for our capital projects, we do have an obligation to abide by the FAA's hangar use policy. Earlier this month, I spoke with a hangar owner who recently had to remove a tenant for not having a airworthy aircraft in their space for months. And he expressed to me the desire for the airport to have something adopted just specifically for the airport. Because, he asked me, he said, when I go to have this conversation with the tenant, what is the basis for it? And we talked about the FAA hangar use policy, and we talked about other rules. But I think this is something that the airport could benefit from looking into more. I was able to provide him some federal guidelines. But my recommendation today is that the board begin the discussion of adopting a hangar use policy specifically for the airport. Things that the policy could include are rules regarding the right to sell fuel in hangars, storage of aircraft, and one aspect of this policy that could be looked at, I was looking at new methods of adopting lease terms. I think many at the airport have expressed that, while historically the airport has given 30-year leases with 2 5-year options for renewal, there might be some better methods going forward that we can just have in writing to look at adopting for future construction and future development on the airport. What I'm recommending is that airport staff begins looking at other airport hangar use policies that we can utilize, and I can continually keep the board updated on this action item. We can look forward to, going forward and making edits to what we want to see at our airport and what the board wants to support at our airport. And I would say that I think if the board were to look at amending lease terms, now it's probably best to have something in writing that, is something that the board can say going forward, this is what we're going to be looking for. But I know ultimately that authority rests with the board. But I did want to bring that up because I know that's been an issue, not just at our airport, but others. But I think our airport could benefit from having such policy.
I agree. I think that there needs to be a comprehensive policy that deals with this and also is reflective and perhaps is part of a review of the airport plan for going forward. So I think that's a good idea. I'm the one who has harped on this issue for a long time now. When you talked with the hangar owner regarding the tenant, I don't believe he has a lease with the tenants, does he? I mean, it's month to month with that.
I'm not sure what his arrangement with the tenant is. I know that he obviously has a ground lease with the airport, and a lot of these hangar rules that we have are written into the ground leases. I mean, that's where you're going to primarily find it. And I think that a lot of the leases, most of the leases, if not all of them, should have language that does pertain to this and does affect this. I just think this separate policy that goes to all people who store tenants at the airport would be helpful as well.
Is there any other discussion? Board?
Yeah, I have some questions about it. One of the things that you mentioned, Kate, was airworthy aircraft, and just a couple of things that come to mind while you were talking would be the construction of experimental aircraft that are not yet airworthy but being built. Another would be mechanical uses. Maybe mechanics that are working out of their hangar to do things like avionics installs and stuff like that. I don't know how that's handled in the current lease documents now, but those are just some of the things off the top of my head that I would like to see considered in any rule that we were to create.
I think under the FAA's rules, they don't have to be airworthy. But it does have to be an airplane that is under construction for repair or maintenance, but it cannot be an RV, right? I mean, a lot of people use them to store RVs, for example.
I know a lot of people begin the construction of experimental aircraft, at home in their garages, but they outgrow that space as the plane starts to take shape. So there's a point where an aircraft that's being constructed does not fit in that guideline any longer.
Airworthy.
It's not airworthy.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, could I add something that we've seen at other airports? They address that by having a period of time airworthy within X months.
Right.
And then the governing body still has the ability to revisit that. If you're actively making progress on your RV6,
Right.
you can allow that to continue. But if you have someone that has a project airplane that has not had any progress within a period of time, then you would have a leg to stand on to say, okay, we're gonna go ahead and terminate that lease.
Yeah.
But they put a duration on that as far as airworthy.
I think that's a good point, because there are a lot of people that start projects and then, you know, they get sick or whatever, and they just continue to pay the bill and that, you know.
But I also know a lot of those projects are 6, 7, 8 years in.
Sure.
as
Oh,
well.
sure, yeah.
So,
But did you say they revisited and if they made like X amount of progress?
So where we've seen it, it hasn't been something that's terribly formal where, okay, we're gonna check up and check up and check up. It just gives you the ability, if you have somebody with the project in the back of the hangar and the Corvette in the front, then you have something to use to mitigate that problem. Not that you want to police that heavily, but.
Gotcha.
So I guess the cleanest way to do this is to entertain a motion that would direct staff to begin the process of drafting a comprehensive let's see where hangar use policy for the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport. That's item number 5. Is that acceptable? So is there a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that staff develops a hangar use policy, draft hangar use policy for the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport.
Motion's been made to direct staff to develop a draft hangar use policy for the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded laid upon the table. Is there any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all of those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay? Having received the majority of those appointed to the custody board, the motion carries, and I think, Katie, we look forward to that draft in the future. I know I'll probably continue with that. Discussion and consideration of possible action to approve the property lease agreement for hangar site 23, item number 6. Beyond.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, attached to the board packet is the lease agreement between the airport and Latham Investment Properties. Its lease terms for this agreement are 30 years with 2 5-year options. Despite the previous agenda item, these terms were included due to the fact this was a standard lease agreement that the airport's used for the last, as far as my records show, 15, 20 years, you name it. A lot of the terms in there didn't have to be rewritten. It was just something that previous airport managers were able to, just input some names, change some dates, and we could ensure that we have the same standards. Just a quick review of this lease agreement will show that, a lot of the things that we just spoke about for the hangar use policy are entailed in the lease agreement. So you'll find that in there as well, which is still good to see. That's included in your packet for review.
When y'all went through that, it's been used for so many years, chart fees and stuff, have you ever addressed those, or have they been consistent, or like, I'm gonna ask them for inflation and other stuff. Do we have new fees in there, like this $40 cover the cost of purchase, inflation aside, or whatever it is? Like, are those still from 20 years ago, or is there something we need to do after these, I guess?
I would say that, I would think that if something needed to be updated, which section?
The connection fees, are you talking about the connection fees?
Connection, or there's a couple amounts listed here, just as part of like fees.
I would imagine that those fees would have been updated by Shalon. That's actually a really good question. I didn't really occur to me until this moment. I would imagine that those were updated. I'm probably not the best person to give a historical perspective on what's been done with those particular fees in the past. I did run a lot of the utility fees and such by the utilities department, so I think they would have caught it.
Yeah, so I mean, because there's stuff in there related. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't about to sign a contract for 2 years from now, like, oh man, we're losing money.
The connection fees specifically were determined back when the loan was taken for those improvements. So I think they were set as part of that agreement when the loan for the water line and sewer line were put in place, just specifically to those.
Okay.
Yes.
Any further discussion on item number 6? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the property lease agreement for Harris Country.
There's been a motion made, is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made, second and laid upon the table, is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Any opposed, nay. Having received the majority of those appointed to constitute the board, the motion carries. Discussion, consideration, possible action regarding hangar site 23. John.
So I've been unable to get in touch with Mr. Ripley. I sent him an email on October 12th, and I've left him 2 voice messages since. I did include a photo in your packet that wasn't sent out with the original packet because the photo was taken this morning at around 9 a.m. My concern was that last week I would include a photo, and then by today it would something would have had to happen. But you can see there where we're at on the construction progress. I did speak with the planning department, and he has, at this point, received all the necessary permits. I believe he's gone through all the permitting process, which was something that he wasn't quite done with this week. But I did invite him to come today and make comments, or as usual, give me a statement that I'll read on his behalf at this meeting. But at this time, I have no updates. There has been some on and off construction progress made, but besides what you can tell in the picture, that's all I can really speak for.
So the progress made has been in the necessary permits.
It does look like there has been.
Minimal dirt work. Yeah, I've seen, so my hangar's out by there. I have seen work happening, on occasion, but I don't know, what percentage that's been done. Have they poured the slab yet?
I haven't seen
Did you
it.
see that?
I see a lot of gravel work.
No, it doesn't.
It looks like they've landed the building and graded at least. Maybe spread gravel for the slab.
Is he meeting the requirements set forth in the progress? This question.
I think we didn't have a real, and that's probably an oversight on our part to not have said. I think we just said substantial.
We just think that's substantial progress.
And
Define
define substantial progress.
It's some parameters.
So,
It's a baby step, the fact that he's got the permit, and he couldn't do anything without the permit.
right,
I mean, I would say that that's at least a step in the right direction.
and it does appear that there's dirt work done on the site.
And is that the shell of the building that's landed there in that picture?
I can't tell what that
The photocopy of the picture is difficult for me to see, but is all of this in the bottom picture? Is all of that the
Material,
material to erect the building?
I think
Landed
some
on
of
the
it
site?
is because I know that there was some
Yeah,
complaint
you know
about
that?
material. but-
Yes, I'm not sure how much of that material, I don't know if that's 100% of his material. I do know that his neighbors have, expressed a concern that, there's piles of materials everywhere. He did have lots of trucks coming in back and forth that tracked dirt all the way to the terminal. And I was able to get in contact with him a few weeks ago to get that taken care of. That was my last contact with Mr. Ripley.
I think in light of the fact that we don't have specific metrics for him to meet, and there is something happening, I think we have to assume that progress is being made at this point.
I think if there's a lapse in progress, I think we need to know, and then we probably need to have like specific deadlines that we could establish that would say, within 6 months, you will have frame, foundation
have
of
milestones.
frame, yeah, I think
Milestones.
we need to have.
Right.
Because it down, it could lag forever.
Well, that's what's happened is-
Define.
Chairman, if I could ask, the lease agreement that we have new tenants signing is 6 months to complete construction. We're now 60 days down the road from the continuance. We're now a year from the original lease agreement. I think what I would advise is we give them a hard stop. So at this point, he's a year out. You want to give him another 6 months? I think that's your prerogative. But I think he needs a hard stop, get it built, or let's move on. So
I think we also could
request a plan from him, how long it's gonna take.
I thought it's a good idea.
I mean, he's not really been willing to engage with usually the whole lot, he's had the opportunity to be here. So I would have staff ask him for our plan.
Well, then if he's not able to produce one,
And we're in a strong
pretty for
position.
sure that, okay, sorry, then if you don't have it by X, Y, Z, then.
I mean, I do recognize that with building right now, things are somewhat
Yeah.
difficult. I mean, it is.
That's a good
But,
Very
The hangar door is something that we've got 9 hangars projects right now. And the door that most of these new box hangars are using now has upwards of a 9-month lead time. Now, not making any excuses, he could have ordered that door months and months ago, but the 6-month build time in the lease probably warrants a little bit of slack in what we're seeing in the construction market right now. Not that you haven't already given it
I was
to
gonna
us.
say, I agree with that, but we're here
Yes.
down the road.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
That's
Right. It's not a foundation, you're later, and have to build it on the airport, so.
okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we say that he has 30 days to respond, or let's do 15 days, 15 days to respond with a definitive plan that includes hard timelines for when he expects completion. And if we don't get that by the next board meeting, we'll adopt some kind of hard deadline. Does that work?
Yeah, I think we gotta add some milestones for that as well, Grant. So, maybe the first milestone is when the slab is poured. Second milestone is when the shell of the building is erected. And the third is when it's finally completed.
So let me just, so I can craft that here.
What were your milestones again?
Milestones I thought were foundation, shell, and completion. Unless anybody has any other milestones they'd like to add, but I think those are pretty significant.
There's no utilities to be done, they're there.
So,
Utilities, I think they're electric, but it's, I don't know what electric's already on site or not. That would be part of completion.
I believe that there is, I mean, it is capable of being tied in
It's nearby, yes.
at this, so shell, utility,
Building structure.
and completion. All right, so I guess the motion would be to direct staff to send a letter that demands that we have a timeline as to when he will have the following milestones met: a foundation poured, the shell completed, utilities connected to the property, and then final completion of the project. Is that correct?
Yeah, one more thought, and this is kind of something that Eddie brought up. We may want to put a hard stop on this now. If we don't agree to his plan, we don't want to have some partial construction, a slab or something done that we don't want at that point. So it might be wise to do a hard stop now
Not to exceed,
until completion or until acceptance of this proposed plan.
Would you just add that the final structure date then?
Not to
be by-
exceed
Not to
6 months.
exceed, yeah, this particular time,
okay.
and
does that work?
that has to be included.
Okay, so I guess what the motion would say is that we direct staff to send him a letter that demands a time frame from him that includes the following: a foundation, the following guideposts, the foundation, when the shell will be completed, utilities connected, and then final completion not to exceed 6 months. Is that an acceptable motion?
Actually, utilities would probably has the end, right?
Yeah, there's an initial time that'll be done usually before subgrade, right? And then there would be the final inspections on utilities would be at the very end. But one more thing, Grant, maybe the stop work order comes first though, right? So maybe we want to direct staff to issue a stop work order, so nothing else happens except for the proposal of this plan within 15 days. And then after that 15 days, we can choose whether or not we want to allow him to continue this construction.
I guess my concern with the stop work order at this point would be if he has people that are scheduled and then
And
they've already started putting them on hold.
Mhm,
And I mean,
mhm.
given the nature of trying to find,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's-
at this point, I would be
If it's already
hesitant
started.
to stop somebody who has
If you really want
Already
something.
started.
The devil's advocate for that though, and in support of that is, I don't think we've done anything to this point that gives attention that says it's serious when you get this done. I think that would at least put some teeth behind your.
Well, if I was a
Letter.
contractor and I got a 60-day notice
Mhm.
demand letter, I
It
would
would
have
start.
lit my fire.
Yes, I think so
And
too.
if there is a supply chain issue, I think that case has been made.
Mhm.
You just have to say it, rather than being non-responsive.
Rather than ignore Katie.
I
Uh,
haven't heard anything like that, right? So I would assume,
And the tenant is fully aware
Yes.
that these conversations are ongoing. This is
Okay.
not a surprise.
Well, it appears this picture was taken this morning, so there's some skids that are out there on the location right now, which would indicate somebody's been out there working.
I do see them out there working on occasion. To be quite frank, I see them pushing gravel around.
It's
Nothing
key help.
beyond-
It's been there for a while.
okay.
But
Well, I think
I
that-
agree with the stop order until he says, I mean, if he's got people already scheduled, he's gonna come right back and say, I've got this scheduled for this date right now.
Well, then we would see it done right now.
Well, you'll
Or
say,
else
he said, as soon as I get this gravel
Right.
spread, or I've got concrete scheduled for this date, he's gonna return right away and say, I've already got the schedule, right?
And we can give staff the ability to lift that stop work order if that's the case.
And let him finish it.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think you need something like
Okay,
this,
so you wanna,
like the fire.
Is this middle of the plan?
I think so.
okay. So the motion will be to direct staff to notify the tenants that there's a stop work order until we have a plan submitted that has the following milestones addressed: the foundation, shell, utilities, completion, and it's not to exceed 6 months.
I agree with that.
That's the motion.
So they're gonna present it to staff and then we need to do anything to do that, just the staff.
I think if you have a motion and a second, we vote on it, they already sets the direction.
We'll bring it back. Director will bring it back to you. at the next meeting.
That motion gives him the authority to make some decisions.
If we need to schedule a special meeting.
So that could-
Well, your motion is until stop order is submitted and approved. If we give staff the ability to approve it, they can lift it. So I think you're right. I think you're satisfied with that.
Mhm.
Kate, did you get all of those points?
Yes.
You're sure?
We got it recorded.
I know we got
recorded, yeah.
it, but you know, do you really want to go through 27 minutes and 50 seconds of recording to find where we are in this? So you have this.
Yes, sir.
You don't need me to repeat it. Happy to repeat I'm a college professor. I like to hear my voice. I like to repeat it. So, okay, is there a motion?
Yes.
Okay, there's been a motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded and laid upon the table to direct staff with regard to hangar site 23C to issue a stop work order until the tenant provides us with a specific site plan that includes guidelines as to when, or dates as to when he is going to have foundation poured, shell constructed, utilities connected, and then a completion date not to exceed 6 months. That is the motion that has been made, seconded, and laid upon the table. Is there any other discussion? No other discussion? Is there, no other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. The ayes have it. Having received the majority of those elected or nothing before, motion carries. Discussion and consideration item number 8, and possible action to recognize Glenn Crabtree's service to the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport. Mr. Young.
Yes, so after 48 years of service to the airport, we would like to do something to recognize Glenn for his service. I know he's been a big help to me. I believe at the end of this month, he'll be leaving the airport. And I know that just in the short amount of time I've been here, he's been an invaluable resource to me at a time when he probably didn't have to be. So I thank him for all of his assistance. I don't know if Mr. Chairman, if you would like to, propose what we were thinking for the terminal, if you would like me to talk about that.
So I'm sure everybody is tired of hearing about how I grew up at the airport. Glenn was my first instructor out here and has taught innumerable Oklahoma pilots how to fly, many of which have gone on to successful careers in the aviation industry. And so I would like to name something after Mr. Crabtree here at the airport. And it would be my recommendation that we name this building after Mr. Crabtree and honor his service and dedication to the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport. That's my idea. Any other proposals?
I think that's a lovely proposal.
There's been a motion made and seconded to recommend, of course, it's the city council. There will be some serious arm twisting on my part to pass that, to name this terminal building after Glenn Crabtree, in recognition of his dedicated service of over 48 years to the citizens of the city of Guthrie and to the aviation community of the state of Oklahoma. There's been a motion made. Was there a second?
Yes. Second.
Motion made and seconded, laid upon the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Having received the majority of those appointed to the constituted board, the motion carries. Mr. Young, your report.
All right, there's many points on this report. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. This past month, the airport rotating beacon was operating 24/7 when it only should be operating at night. Ace Electrical was called out and then they helped replace the photo cell in the beacon, and it was repaired earlier this month. Airport staff is still looking at a few options for a new airport truck. We were past the deadline. That's my fault due to my newness at the airport. We missed our deadline to purchase that truck, but I've been working with the city manager to get that vehicle purchased for the airport, which will be a great asset. The Aero Day legislative fly-in was a very successful collaboration between the OAC, the EAA, and the city to coordinate that event. I wanted to thank the Edmond City Departments for providing adequate tables and chairs for the event. I wanted to thank the Guthrie City Departments for helping set up the event, helping coordinate assistance prior to it. Gary Manning, the president of EAA Chapter 1098, was greatly appreciative for the airport. I heard many great things from him and others in the organization about our airport being a great location for such event in the future. Fly-in food truck event was a success. I spoke to a few other airports that host similar events, and they recommended sometimes they try to take a fly-in out of the name of the event because it sets up some false hopes, maybe for some days. So we might look at doing that in the future. But I think it was a successful event. I think they sold 53 sandwiches, sandwich, cheese, and the nut did. So they were more than happy to come back anytime soon in the future. And they had some good other food truck contacts within the city of Guthrie and Edmond as well. So we can continue to look forward to that. Bucks Flight Academy has officially begun operations at Guthrie Edmond Airport last month. The managers, Kenneth and Kathy Lockhart, have operated a fleet of 3 aircraft out of El Reno for almost 8 months. And they're now offering private pilot license training and plane rental out of this airport. They have submitted to airport staff all necessary insurance requirements, and they've received a copy of the airport minimum standards. The Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission will be out. We're going to be out on October 5th to conduct a regular runway pavement inspection. But unfortunately, they got stuck in Grove, Oklahoma. So they'll be coming out hopefully later this month to get that taken care of. And once I get the results from that inspection, I'll make sure to share it with the board. That'll be on the just overall pavement strength, I'm assuming, and other things. So. Met with Shonda Rooney with the city of Guthrie to work on updating the airport website. The website was last updated in 2020, so there's many updates to be needed. I'll update you all upon completion and get your feedback as well, like your feedback as well. I'd like to get more information about renting hangars on there because I do get quite a few calls about that, and it'd be nice to have a nice new website to refer them to. Edmond billing for March, April, and May were completed, sent to the city of Edmond. Hope to have the billing caught up and completed by the month of October. Had a little bit of a learning curve coming in, figuring out that system, but hopefully we'll get caught up. We're a few months behind right now. We're good there. The city of Edmond has requested preliminary dates, for next year's, Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport Board meeting. I'm going to include the dates in the packet next month for review, and the city of Guthrie will work on adopting those as well. But for preliminary purposes, they should be good to go. Met with the Oklahoma Corporation Commission inspector regarding fuel tank inspections on September 13th. There was a form that the OCC was wanting to see completed. The airport staff previously were not completing. I had completed that form over at Stillwater, so I just wanted to walk through with him and make sure that everything was good. So going forward, we'll be good to go there. Attended the Leadership Guthrie meeting with city staff and community leaders at the Guthrie Territorial Museum on September 14th, and then attended various AAA and OAOA meetings as well. And that concludes my report.
Any questions like the report? All right. Comments, concerns, and from members of the request from members of the airport board, Councilman Williams. No. None from Councilman Williams. Mr. Wallace. Dr. Golightly.
Yes, are we going to do something for Glenn? I don't know if it's me, the party planner, and me, but a little get together, ice cream cake, something before Glenn actually leaves. I would kind of like to see that personally when someone retires. Just that honor for them while they are still here. I know we're doing proposing the name.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the sort of hard time is figuring out, because I know that there's a transition period and I'm not sure exactly when his last day was going to be, but we can.
Right. I spoke with Mr. Bartman about this as well, because he was looking at doing a lot of renovation work in the lobby. And I think the last thing I wanted to do was stick Mr. Crabtree's name on the wall and him have to rip it down so he could repaint the wall. And so I wanted to make sure that we were able to honor him and give him, his day here at the airport. And I also wanted to make sure I pulled on as many city resources as I can to make it a really good event.
Right.
I was planning on hosting it, looking at hosting it later this month, which is the time that I think Mr. Crabtree is looking at leaving the airport and retiring. I was unsure if I should also have it on an airport board day before or after, just so that I know that all the board members should have enough time.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Why don't we get some proposals together on a date, like maybe the next airport board meeting? How does that work?
Probably do the dedication of the building at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do. Yeah.
That would do everything. Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? Councilman Robbins? No. All right, well, I won't keep you any longer, since I like to talk. I'm willing to do that. Is there a motion to adjourn? There's been a motion made to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. There's a debate. All those in favor, aye. Any opposed, nay. It's amazing how nobody ever wants to oppose a motion to adjourn. Meeting's over.